economics of Bitcoin allow this to happen a lot more easily, because Bitcoin is the first hard money ever that separates the state from money. That's never been possible for in the history of humans on planet Earth.
Max Keiser is the host of the Keiser Report, backs his own venture capital fund, and has been called America's most outrageous political pundit. He's also one of the world's biggest advocates of Bitcoin and has been telling people to pay attention to the cryptocurrency back when it was trading for $1. I bet a lot of people wish they had listened to Max back then. Max, welcome to TCN TV.
Well, it's great to be here. Finally, we have a huge fans in Australia, so it's always great to speak to our Australian fans.
You got a lot of fans in Australia, and I know you've built up that fan base over quite some time. You've been broadcasting for a while now, but never really through a pandemic, I suspect. And I'm keen to hear, Max, what have been your greatest surprises through this year?
Well, the trend for the past 20 or 30 years has always been the reckless actions of various central banks around the world to continuously print all of their fiat money. And eventually this would catch up to them. And eventually we'd have a crisis that would expose the fragility of that system.
Now, Max, you've actually called the US Federal Reserve financial terrorists who are wielding weapons of mass financial destruction to bankrupt Americans and decimate the labor market, with central banks pumping money into the global economies, as you just said, and as they are around the world. As a response to this crisis, many are tipping a financial crisis now. How do you think this scenario will play out, and how are you preparing?
To call central bankers financial terrorists, I think, is justified. If you compare, let's say, Jay Powell, who runs the Federal Reserve Bank, with your average suicide bomber, they both are willing to kill themselves and others for the sake of an ideology. They both are fundamentalists. One is a theocratic fundamentalist, whereas Jay Powell is a market fundamentalist who believes in the sanctity and the all-powerful nature of the, quote, market. One is trained in specialty schools, madrasas, in one case, whereas in America, the financial terrorists are trained in similar to madrasas. They're called Harvard, Yale, and Princeton. They teach these terrorists the wherefores and whys of how to commit acts of suicide banking. And so what we find is that the two are cut from the same cloth, and their objectives are the same. They're both ideologically driven. And they're borderline psychotic. And that's, unfortunately, we have these people running our central banks. So they are well underway now in committing these atrocious acts. And the preparation for anyone looking to avoid this type of annihilation, financial annihilation, there's only really three ways you can avoid it: gold, silver, and Bitcoin.
And I suspect you're in all three then?
Yes, we own gold, silver, and Bitcoin. We own gold and silver for really 12, 13 years now. We've been accumulating. We started accumulating Bitcoin in 2011 when it was $1. And this is the strategy going forward. You want hard money, something that can't be printed. So that's the only way to escape the printers. They're going to keep printing trillions and trillions. So you want something that they can't print.
Max, one of my favorite lines is that the very act of investment is a belief in a better tomorrow. So despite all of these headlines of crisis, you are invested, and I understand you're also behind a venture capital fund. What are you backing for the future now?
A venture capital fund that Max and Stacy run, it's called Heisenberg Capital. And we have been investing since 2013 in Bitcoin-related startups, mostly exchanges like Kraken, Bitso, Bitfinex, Shapeshift. And this past year, we made an investment in Casa Bitcoin, which is a Bitcoin vaulting service.
Yeah.
And also Swan Bitcoin, which is basically an on-ramp into Bitcoin, allows users to dollar cost average and best practices in terms of how to accumulate Bitcoin.
So if we combine your love of crypto and Bitcoin, can you really imagine a scenario where fiat money collapses and grandmothers are buying loaves of bread at their corner store with fractions of Bitcoins?
Two questions there. Do I see fiat money collapsing, and do I see what's called hyper Bitcoinization? That is, that the Bitcoin becomes a unit of account. And the answer to the first question is that all fiat money has always either outright collapsed or lost 90% or more of its value. And that's been true for 300 years. There's no fiat money that's survived over the past 300 years. The average lifespan of fiat money is less than 30 years. And so it's a dead certainty that all the current fiat money systems will collapse because, as Voltaire once said, all paper money returns to its intrinsic value, and that is zero. So this has been known for hundreds of years. You can't run an economy on paper money. As far as will people start using Bitcoin as a unit of account or to go out and buy their groceries, we already see that in countries like Nigeria, where 30% of the population is using Bitcoin on a day-to-day basis as a unit of account. So it's already taking over Africa. And I think that Bitcoinization, hyper-Bitcoinization will be first seen in Africa and probably in Nigeria. And Nigeria has the potential to become a world-leading economy now because they are operating on the only true hard money standard available to the masses, and that would be Bitcoin.
So, Max, with all these advancements taking place, how does the world look like to you in the future in a post-pandemic world?
Well, I think you're going to see a lot more, let's say, tribalism, I guess is a good word for it. The era of globalization, I think, is over. The globalization era that started after World War II, I think that's come to an end. We now are in an era of deglobalization. When Trump became president, he said he was really not interested in globalization, or the globalists, as he called them. So you've got deglobalization, de-dollarization, de-Chinification, and depopulation. So everything is shrinking, getting smaller, breaking off into regions or groups or tribes. And the economics of Bitcoin allow this to happen a lot more easily, because Bitcoin is the first hard money ever that separates the state from money. That's never been possible for in the history of humans on planet Earth. They've never been able to separate state from money. This is absolutely brand new, and it's very profound. And I think the nation state as a whole starts to fade away because its usefulness is no longer really going to demand a premium of any type.
Max, you seem like a pretty cool guy, but are you panicked about anything at this stage?
The only thing I'm worried about is a meteor strike, because I think that would be something you can't, would be an extinction event. And if you notice, in the last few years, it seems like scientists are coming out every week and saying, oh, we just discovered another meteor. It's getting closer and closer to planet Earth. When I was growing up, meteors were fairly rare, and they were always, very far away. It seems like these meteors are getting closer and closer. So yeah, that's the one thing I worry about. If we do get hit by a meteor, I think that would be probably end of story.
Are you more worried about inflation or deflation?
We need to create more inflation, so we're gonna flood the system with more paper money. Okay, now there's something deeply wrong with that statement, because the reason why there's deflation, as he calls it, is because the money itself is debt. And debt is, by definition, deflationary. So he's saying that we're going to solve this debt deflation problem by issuing more debt. Okay, so that gets back to my financial terrorist example. A terrorist would believe in ideology that makes no sense to the average person, and yet they go ahead and they blow themselves up. So here's Jay Powell. He's clearly misguided. He's saying we're going to cure the debt problem by increasing the debt, and he's going to kill himself and his country by doing it. So he's a terrorist. He's a financial terrorist. So the only protection is gold, silver, and Bitcoin. Gold has made new all-time highs in every currency in the world now, including the US dollar. Silver is back on a bullish track. Bitcoin has been a monster from $1 to, it's 11,000 now, heading to 400,000. I mean, this is where people are going to seek the safe haven.
So 400,000, do you have a timeline on that prediction, Max?
It all depends on how fast the dollar collapses, right? The Bitcoin has no top. There is no ultimate price for Bitcoin because the US dollar ultimately has no bottom. The US dollar can keep going down until it reaches absolute zero. And so gold, silver, and Bitcoin are going to be priced in Bitcoin hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Well, Max, that's certainly a lot of things to watch there. And as long as a meteorite doesn't come and interrupt us, we'll be smiling.
Well, unless the meteorite's full of gold, then we'd be doubly messed up on the gold. The gold bugs would be. Peter Schiff would start crying. You know,
they think all their Christmases had come at once.
Yeah, he's an American economist, and he would start crying a lot if the meteor full of gold struck Westport, Connecticut. He would be very upset. He would start crying on his Twitter feed.
Well, that's certainly something to dream about. I want to thank you so much for your insights today. It's been a real pleasure to speak with you.
Oh, my pleasure. Anytime.
And thank you for watching. If you like what you see, like and share the video, subscribe to TCN TV, and drop us a comment. Tell us who you would like to see and what you would like me to ask them. Or if you're an investor, send us an email so we can keep you in the loop with the latest ideas to empower.